Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another Nerd Tube discussion. Today, we are talking a little bit of Final Fantasy. I am joined here with my party member in arms, of course, the Major Rage. How you doing?
Doing great. Excited to be here again talking about nerd stuff with you, cousin Cheeto.
And today, if you haven't read the title yet, but good for you if you did, is we're talking about Final Fantasy or any kind of honestly marathon or speed runs. We'll probably start off with the Final Fantasy, and if we kind of wander off into other speed runs or stuff that we've seen, it's fine. It's all fine. We don't have a plan anyway. So I'll kind of drop it over to Mage. So I kind of want to pose the question: is if what are your thoughts on Final Fantasy marathons? And I know that neither you nor I have technically done a marathon in completion, except for playing the games over our lives. But like, what are your thoughts on marathon? Like, when you see somebody is doing a Final Fantasy marathon, they're going from Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy whatever, like to the end, whatever's out at that point. What are your thoughts? Like, are you like, yeah, I love these things, or is it like, oh man, another marathon?
Um, I've not checked one out, but I think it would be an interesting thing to watch the reactions of somebody seeing how the series evolved over the years, because they always tried to break the mold every entry and do something completely different than what's come before until you got up to 9 and you get your culmination, your victory lap, as it were.
Hmm.
But to see the evolution, kind of a chronological marathon is a good examination for that. And I think it would make, for compelling views, especially, if something that would appeal to me would be just, general impressions from the streamer about, the advancements, which aspects or of the various titles they enjoy more, prefer over the others, because they are so vastly different from each other.
So one or two questions. So one, do you would you be more interested, or would you like to see someone who has never experienced the games before ever marathoning them from one until whatever? Or would you prefer someone who has experience but maybe he's never played the games in chronological order, or is missing a couple, to kind of go back and kind of just fill out their repertoire with all the Final Fantasies?
I think that each of those has something to bring to the table. Seeing somebody, fill in the gaps in their Final Fantasy education would be, just as compelling as seeing somebody, get that education from the ground up. And, you wouldn't necessarily have to do it in chronological order, but just to see people's reactions to the different approaches to storytelling that the different games had.
um okay, so my second question would be, what if you were to tell someone who has never played any Final Fantasy before, graphics aside, like let's just say all the graphics are on an even playing field. We got a demake of everything, baby. Everything's demade. I know it's impossible, but whatever. Um, what game would you tell them to play first? Like if they weren't marathoning, if they were just playing Final Fantasy for the very first time, everything considered, all graphics. I mean, all graphic. Like let's say graphics don't matter to this person. Let's say it that way. Because I know what your favorite Final Fantasy is, but do you think that that would translate well to someone who does not know the franchise yet? Ooh, this is a good question. Mage is really turning those gears.
They are trying to turn that. There's a lot to assess. What is the best entry point for the series? Is it a game that has more in common with the others and would be more representative of the greater number of titles? Or would it be one that, like, kind of wraps everything that is Final Fantasy up in one nice little package, and you can show them, hey, this is what Final Fantasy is.
I can I
So
can I can tell you my answer whenever you're ready. But it's actually it's kind of not a controversial one. I wouldn't say it's controversial, but it's definitely a surprise from me.
Let's hear yours while I try to decide on mine.
Final Fantasy X. Not even really in my top 5 of Final Fantasies for me. But when you look at it from the ground up, let's say graphics don't matter and everything like that, but it gives you a little snippet of everything. It gives you a little snippet of the job system. It gives you a little snippet of magic. It gives you a snippet of summons, and it doesn't overwhelm you either. Like, let's be real. Like, there's not a ton of summons in 10. You've kind of got, yeah, your job systems. Like, you've got your samurais like Orin. You've got like your warrior slash time mage and Titus. The sphere grid is very easy to navigate. I mean, I feel like it's better than 13's Crystallum, but I feel like it's more engaging. Like, I feel like the sphere grid is more engaging, I feel like, than the Crystallum. Also Blitzball. I mean, come on, let's be real, Blitzball. I like Blitzball. I loved Blitzball. I'd play a whole mini game based on Blitzball with some extra mechanics baked in there. So
I mean, it
I
would have to be better than Chocobo Racing.
yeah,
The
it really would.
the standalone Chocobo Racing game. I
Oh, I
actually
thought you were
enjoy
talking. I thought you
Chocobo
were.
races in 7. No, I love Chocobo races.
Oh, I thought you were talking about in 10 because Chocobo races in 10 are just kind of like it's like
They're
running across the
brutal.
field. Yeah,
That
they are
that's
brutal.
bashing your head against the wall, man. No. Oh no. Oh no. I
But
did
it's
it
so
once to
what
get that reward. I was like,
it's
I've done it.
it's somewhat linear, but it does kind of open up towards the end, but still very linear. So, but you're not going to get like lost. You know what I mean? Like, it's not 13 levels of linear, but it's also not like 12 levels of open world. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, my other one would unfortunately, I want to say 8, but I think the junction system would really confuse some people. But what do you think about 10?
I I get why you've chosen it. I agree with the points you're making, but just it feels like it's an atyp it has lots of different elements from Final Fantasy, but it's an atypical type game.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
it
oh, go
was
ahead.
one where they were breaking out of a mold and, leaving the PlayStation 1 era pre-drawn artwork behind.
Mm-hmm.
So they devised a new way of there being limited areas for you to go with the illusion
You
of
can't jump over
the
the grass
open
over
world.
here.
Right, exactly. The illusion of free world, but it's for better or worse, it began the tradition of the corridor run.
And you're not wrong at all in any of those points. As I said, honestly, I went with the first thing that popped in my head. Like, if I were to introduce a Final Fantasy to someone who's never played it before and is interested in it? Which one would I give them? And and I feel like Yuna is kind of a relatable character. Titus is kind of cringe at times, but his interactions with Orin is pretty endearing, I think. Waka and Titus too. Like, Titus with people is okay, but like Titus on his own is just like, oh, shut up. So
Just one whiny bag of angst,
mhm.
poorly voice acted.
Yes, very much so. So what have you had a chance to think of yours? Which one you were thinking?
Don't laugh at me, but I think I would start them off with Mystic Quest.
Oh wow. I mean, okay. I mean, I see why. I mean, if it's somebody who's never played Final Fantasy before, and if graphics don't matter, I mean, it's not. Start them at the beginning.
I mean, it's got good music. It's got a low learning curve, so you can hand it to somebody who's never played an RPG before. I mean, the NPC holds their hand, sure, but the plot's basic, but it's entertaining. If basic, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking with nostalgia. and just love that music.
Hey, I mean, you know what? Nostalgia is why are we here if we're not here for nostalgia? I mean, you know?
But no, I'm gonna somebody's gonna come at me in the comments about that one.
Whatever. You know what? Leave it in the comments. You know what? Don't be talking about Major Rage like that. You come at me. Well, anyway, um, you don't mess with Major Rage, man. He is the host of the year. Anyway, I'm gonna push that harder than you ever will. So you might
You
as well just.
will, because you like embarrassing me with it.
Um, and if you want to know what we're talking about with that, go to the Golden Glasses Awards on this very channel. Anyway, okay, so next question I have. If you were to speedrun any Final Fantasy, so this would be a Final Fantasy that you know the best, that you feel like you could speedrun nor like like normal. Like you can't speed I'm sorry. Like if you want to speedrun 12, that's fine, but it's like really like 12. Like all you got to do is play through the story and you basically sped run it. You just don't stop for all the side quests and stuff like that. So it's like, what game would you want to speed run if you were forced to speed run one of them?
I would do 4 or 7.
Okay. Oh, do I have to pick mine now?
Yes.
what? What? I know four because four is your favorite, and I know you're really good at four, and so very deep knowledge. Why seven? Just because everybody does it, and there's so many. And I'm not talking about like what speed run do you think would be the shortest. I'm talking about which one would you like to speed run. Because I know seven's got so many digital like glitchy hacks that's how people speed run it. I actually don't like those speed runs. I love seeing speed runs where people play the whole game, but they move through fights fast and they beat bosses
Mhm.
faster using tricks and stuff like that. I don't like it where like, okay, if I come here and I stand right here and I pop the disc open and then rotate it backwards 3 times and then let my dog lick the disc and then I close the lid again, then I'll be in the northern crater, and then I'll face Sephiroth at level 2. Like I don't like those speed runs of 7. I'm sorry, like yeah, just because it's the shortest speed run, I get why people do it. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I just don't like them. I feel like you need to play the game and speed run it. Like if you can play the whole game without doing any like big skips, you know what I mean? Like if you skip like a dialogue box here and there, or if you skip like maybe like I don't even want to say a main quest because I feel like you should still have to do the main quest. You know what I mean? But like, you skip all the side quests, skip any, stuff like that. That's fine. But you play the main game, that's kind of my idea of a good speed run. So I don't know. Did I ask? Did you answer the question? I talk too much.
Uh, no, I listed 4 or 7, and I feel like I'm familiar with both of those more than any of the other entries other than tactics. And that one, I mean, I guess you could speed run tactics. Be That'd actually be tough. That That'd be fun too, actually. But
Yeah.
of core titles, 4 and 7 are the ones I'm most familiar with. And I feel like, I have the best strats already in my head for the more challenging encounters.
Mine would probably I mine would probably fun wise, I would want to speedrun 9, of course. Just because it's 9, I love it. But a one that I wouldn't mind speedrunning is 10. I think 10 is linear enough and there's plenty of areas for you to kind of like skim through rather than stopping and doing things. Like a lot of
Hmm.
the towns and stuff, if you don't stop and talk to people, you can literally do one cutscene and run right out, and then you're in the next area. So I really feel like 10 would be a fun one to kind of speed run. 12 would be interesting, but as I said, all you really have to do is do the main story and then that's it. So, so yeah. Anyway, anything else on that one that you want to the speed runs that you want to talk about or any other
I
game like any other games even outside of Final Fantasy? I mean, I've always wanted to kind of do a Breath of Fire 3 speed run. I've seen them done. They can get them done between like 6 and 8 hours. I've seen. Yeah.
Whoa.
So, yep. And I love Breath of Fire 3. That's like one of my favorite JRPGs outside of Final Fantasy. So it's always been one that I've been like, I might speedrun Breath of Fire 3 one day if I ever become a full-time streamer and, get good.
Breath of Fire 3 is also one of my favorite JRPGs. It's a very underrated game.
Oh, absolutely. I love it.
Uh, but no, I don't think I have anything to add, really. I think good questions, good prompts, good discussion.
Okay. Well, with that all being said, everybody, thank you very much for joining us here to talk about marathons and speedruns. Leave your favorite marathons and speedruns down below. Get the discussion going. Please feel free to hit that like button and consider subscribing to NerdTube. We are the greatest YouTube channel you kind of maybe sort of heard of. We do Star Trek, Star Wars, obviously Final Fantasy. We do pro wrestling. We do Marvel and DC. We do a plethora of reviews, plethora of discussion topics, and just tons of stuff. We also have our Friday chats where we just talk about anything and everything under the sun and all the current news, including politics. It is the one time we take our no politic ban off because we just sometimes we just go at it. Major Rage, thank you very much for joining me for this discussion. I greatly appreciate you being here.
I appreciate getting to be here. It's always fun talking with you about any of the stuff that we get together and discuss.
All right, and with that, we will catch you guys in the next one. Catch you later.